Welcome, all you weirdos, to episode 143 of the pod. It's the Podio Slave podcast. It's the occasional crasher, Rob Riccatelli, joining in with the boys here, Anthony, and Nate, for Nathaniel, Sir Nathaniel, for an episode that I 100% completely invited myself to.
Sort of.
We need you for this one.
Well, I heard you guys talking about it with Spizzy a couple of weeks ago, and you talked about doing an episode of Woodstock '99. I was like, I'm in, and then
the rest
here we
is
are.
history. We're back.
Yeah, because I was there, and somehow Nate was there. I don't know how that, because he was like 11.
Were you his chaperone? Were you his chaperone?
I didn't even know him at the time. It only makes sense that we were both there, but it almost doesn't make sense that he was there.
No, because Nate, what were you, 14, 15?
I was young, very young. When we were young.
Yeah.
When you were young.
But yeah, probably somewhere in that ballpark.
When your parents hear this episode, this will be the first time that they've ever heard about you going to this.
Right.
That's a good call, Twan. Yeah. If Nate's parents are listening, don't judge any of the content of what's coming next year. We love you guys, and obviously it's all in jest. But yeah, they let you go at age 10, and Rob wasn't your chaperone.
I want to kind of know, because we all know Nate, and Nate gets stuff done. He has been able to finagle his way backstage hundreds of times. Before we get started, what did you say to your parents to have them say okay to this? I'm dying to know.
I mean, it's the most ironic plot twist, because they pitched it to me. It was the other way around.
What?
No way.
I swear to God. It was, yeah, I was late for curfew, I think 3 days consecutively, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Came back, this plot twist squared. My mom's like, so you're late for curfew again. I don't know what the deal is, but
you're going to Rome, New York, and you're going to think about what you just did.
Yeah, right.
Kinda. Yeah, it doesn't really add up, but it's how it went down.
Listen, you little bastard.
You need a music festival, and let's give you the most fucked up music festival in the history of mankind to figure out what you did wrong.
Because it was.
Yep.
I mean, I think it was a weird timing thing. I think perhaps the ticket was purchased in advance, and the whole telling me that I was going to the festival happened to align with being late for curfew. So I wouldn't say it was a reward for bad behavior, but it was more or less, your brother's going to this festival with his friend and his father, and I got you a ticket.
That's what it was. His parents thought it was going to be just like Woodstock '69.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sunshines and rainbows and holding hands and
Right.
free water and
dancing around in the mud, which was the same as Woodstock '99, except you were swimming in piss and shit. It wasn't mud.
Well, in 94, it was mud because it rained, right?
Yep.
Right.
And that seemed to go off without a hitch for the most part, comparatively. But 99 was an absolute shit show, literally a shit show. Like you guys were, in the nast the whole time. So
it was crazy.
Crazy your parents let you go, Nate, and crazy. And you weren't 10. You were a teenager, right? You were 15.
Yep.
And you were with your older brother, who was what at the time, probably 18.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And then his friend, who was around the same age, and then their father, who drove us to the festival and back. So
I got one of those packages where I picked up a bus, I believe in Portland. And if I remember correctly, it was $225 for the 3-day pass and transportation to and from. So I hopped on a bus and I went with my best friend, Keith. I mean, he was, I think he's 2 years younger than me. So I was 22. He was 20 at the time. And obviously he was not going to the festival as a 20-year-old by any means. But yeah, it was when this thing got announced, and I had been, obviously, the four of us got connected because not only for our love of music, but our love of going to live concerts. And I've been to like maybe 4 or 5 before this.
Oh, wow.
Well, maybe a few more than that, but I take that back, probably 10. But when I saw this lineup, I was like, I have to go to this. I have to. So I made it happen, and it turned out to be anything that anybody expected it to be. Nate, do you remember the first day?
Oh, yeah. I remember all of it vividly because I was so young.
And watching the Netflix thing, I don't know if you did that, but that that was crazy in itself because it brought me right back there. And I remember it vividly too, but just seeing all that footage totally brought me back there. And I don't know, it'll be interesting to hear what you have to say. But when I was there enjoying the first day, because the first day, well, I was going to say the first day was great, but wasn't completely great. And I'll get to that. But being around that many people, 225,000, I believe is what it was, being around that many people, and it was hot.
Mm-hmm.
Very hot.
And I just wasn't expecting what I was getting into. And at first it was like a huge, it was a huge high because it was like, this is amazing. I'm seeing all the top bands that are out right now in 3 days. This place is huge. There's people everywhere. And when we got there, my buddy was just like, let's go, let's get after it. And we took something, whatever, you're at a festival. I was a young, stupid kid. And we set up in the yellow. Do you remember the yellow? There was flagged areas for tents. Do you remember that, Nate?
Yep.
So you can remember where your tents were. So the yellow flag area. Oh, we're in the yellow area. There's no problem. We set our tent up. We should be able to find that. No problem. Well, the yellow flagged area was about a mile long. So we set up our tent and then we took off and went for a walk just to kind of look around and, see some music from a half a mile away or whatever it was. And then me with my, cause I'm pretty good with this kind of stuff. Me with my good sense of we need to find our tent before it gets dark because
Definitely.
That's the one thing that we need to do. And, we're starting to feel a certain way at this point. And I'm starting to get a little nervous here because we spent, I'm not even exaggerating, I think 2+ hours trying to find our tent. And we weren't even enjoy the music or the shows. So we're walking around. I remember hearing Lit playing in the background. And I really, really wanted to see Lit because I love Lit. And I've still never seen them to this day.
Really?
But I was hearing them in the background and I was hearing all these different bands in the background, but I knew if I didn't find my tent first, I would be screwed. So I missed all these bands or whatever. And we finally find our tent. And at this point, I'm hot. I'm exhausted. I'm starting to feel a certain weird way. And I'm like, I need to chill out in my tent. I'm not digging this right now. So I think I spent 2 hours in my tent and I'm like, this sucks. I want to go have fun, but I can't be around all these people right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to break something to you, Rob. It was only 2 minutes. You thought it was 2 hours.
It probably was. And I remember hearing George Clinton and Funkadelic playing. And I think it was, I think I heard was it DMX maybe? Whatever band played right before Bush. I can't remember.
James Brown.
No, he played during the day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I can't remember. I should know who it was. But anyway, I just remember being like, this sucks. And then I heard Bush start and Bush started playing. And I was just like, I suddenly was like, holy shit, I feel good. And I need to go experience this. And I walked out and just I remember walking on the grass and cause Nate, you remember you're a mile back from the main stage. And there was still plenty of room around and whatever. And I was just there was a breeze going, the temps had cooled down. And then boom, I was into, oh, by the way, my buddy had taken off 3 hours before that. So I'm by myself. By the way, no cell phones back then. So if you wanted to reconnect with whoever you were with, it was when you met back at the tent because you weren't finding them anywhere else.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was day one. And I ended up loving Bush. They were so good. And I was like, all right, cool. We're on now.
Pulled you out of the funk a little bit.
Yep.
Gavin can do that to people. I mean, he's a talented individual.
He was the one that got me out there. It was great. Yeah, I think they headlined night one, right?
They did. Yep.
It wasn't Korn? Wasn't Korn night one?
No, Korn did play night one, I think. They played before Bush.
They played before Bush.
Which is odd.
Yep.
Yeah.
You think about the
Even
tempo,
then,
the energy. Not so much the band's popularity. It was more so the energy. And I think I remember Gavin saying in an interview, he was like, holy shit, we're going on after Korn.
Yeah, right. Especially in that moment. It's 99 and Korn is kind of starting to take over the world a little bit. New metal is taking over the world. So in that moment, Rob, I would have been the same as you, especially today I would have been like, cool, I'm gonna go watch Korn. But in '99, I've been like, I want to stay away from all these people. I'm hiding in my tent.
Yeah, the thing is that my buddy who I was with, who I love him to death, I actually just talked to him earlier tonight. He's just like, let's go. He doesn't give a shit about anything. And I was just like, I need to get used to this atmosphere because it was the most people that had ever been around before. And it was, it was intense. It was crazy. And then there was day 2, which was hotter than day 1. Day 2 was when like Rage played, and it was Rage, and it was Limp Bizkit and Metallica, I believe, was like the lineup for night 2. And I just remember it was super hot that day. And watching, I never saw Limp Bizkit. I was pretty far back for the whole Limp Bizkit craziness. But if you guys watched the Netflix documentary, they talked about how the fact that, when Break Stuff came on, that was the beginning of the end.
Well, actually, I got a question about that. So we know how it unraveled, but like day 1, did it feel organized? Did it feel like anything was weird?
I mean, I had been, I think, up into this point, small little like Old Port Fest, like things like that, like pretty small scale, definitely not a music festival, camping for that matter. Like we were talking about, I was pretty young. So I had never been to a music festival, let alone something way in the middle of nowhere. Like Rome, New York's way out there, So I didn't know what I was getting into. And arriving, first time, first festival, kind of an out-of-body experience. Like, what am I even doing here? Yep. As we all alluded to earlier, I was in that same headspace. Like, how is this happening? Why am I here? I'm kind of a third wheel with my brother and his friend, but whatever. I'm here. This is cool. I don't think it felt disorganized, but it definitely felt like it was hot as hell. Everything's like extremely industrial. There's just a bunch of trucks parked, and like, it's on an Air Force base, right? So it's just like concrete. So, the visions I have of like a music festival are like everything I saw in like VHS tapes with, Rage Against the Machine, basically, back in the day, where it was like a proper music festival. So I wouldn't say that it didn't feel like a music festival on arrival, but it just seemed kind of rigidy, I guess, to answer your question. Upon arrival, it seemed like it was like, what is this? Seems like it's kind of thrown together on the outside.
100% agree with you. Like the first day, I had my whole thing where I was just like hiding out my tent for a little bit, being a weirdo. But then, then the second day was when the porta potty started overflowing, and the lines to get anything were so long. And then I remember, I brought some money with me, but I just remember just trying to stay hydrated. And just to stay hydrated, bottles of water were $4. Do you remember that?
I think there were more than that. I think there were 8 from what I remember.
Well, I think they just kept going up as the day went on, didn't they?
Probably.
I think that's accurate.
But anyways, I just remember that, I just started getting so dehydrated, and I was so mad. I didn't really, because I was 22 and you were 15. So looking back on it, I can see, I think I would be, if I went today and this happened today, I'd be fucking pissed. Mm-hmm. But I was also
that's a good point.
I was like in heaven. I was like, well, maybe this is the way this is shit's supposed to go, like, fend for yourself, all for one for all, But I do remember at one point, I remember exactly what it was, but I was so frustrated that I, couldn't get water. And when I did, it was so expensive. And then there was day 3, and we can bounce back and forth, obviously. But then I just remember on day 3, was the day that we got up close, and it was during the day. I think this was day 3 when Brian Setzer played, and he played, I think, right after Jewel or something like that. But that was the point when we were able to kind of get up close. And I remember day 3 was the hottest day. It was so fucking hot. And we were like we were probably like maybe 30 feet from the stage. And I just remember being so thirsty and so parched, but we didn't want to leave where we were because we weren't going to be able to get back. And there was these people walking around with milk jugs, like gallon milk jugs filled with water from that little community, like water fill up place or whatever, selling them for $10. So Nate, I think the water bottles were $4. We're talking 1999 here. $4 is like $15 now, or $10 or whatever. Because they sold me a bottle of tap water for $10, which I gladly took. And I remember drinking part of it, and I remember pouring it on my face, and it was so hot that the water burnt on my face
Ugh.
and like melted my skin and like caused like blisters almost. Like it was that bad. But we didn't want to lose where we were, you know. We
Right.
wanted to stay where we were, you know.
Are you sure that wasn't the Fago from Insane Clown Posse?
Were they at Woodstock 99?
Were they there?
They were there.
Yeah, there you go.
It might have been.
I think it was water I was drinking.
Yeah, it may not have been too. I mean, there are plenty of stories about that too. You said something that was interesting to me because, especially at that time frame, I mean, you're 22, Nate's 15. You haven't really been to something like this before. Come to find out, there's nothing like this. But at the time, you're thinking to yourself, "This is just the way it is. I don't have any other experiences to like go on to make me think that this might be. Maybe we're being mistreated." Was it that way for like everybody? Did you get the feeling that everybody felt that way? Everybody was just, let's just make the most of this. Yeah, it sucks, but like this is what it's going to be like.
Yes and no. I mean, you got to remember, like you said, it was 99. Music festivals in the US, they didn't really exist. Like Lollapalooza was a touring festival that went to like regular sheds, you know, for the most part. So this was kind of like the beginning of like replicating what they were doing in Europe. I think Coachella launched in 99. They skipped 2000 because of the aftermath of Woodstock 99. So like, I don't think the model had been really proven out yet. So I think everyone, promoter, fan, vendor, was just like, this is kind of like the beginning of this thing we're going to try to copy, you know, Rock in Rio and Brazil and all these festivals around the world that bring in big money and big sponsors and big bands. Like that had never been something that had really taken place at like a full blown like festival in the middle of nowhere, camping style. I felt like, you know, for the most part, these were festivals that are traveling. So I think to answer your question, at least in my perspective, no one really felt like they were getting burned or it was a shit show, you know, beforehand proactively, because it was just like new. It was brand new. It was somewhat new, a new concept for this country.
And I remember it's funny because I look back on it and I watch, you know, the documentaries and whatnot. I don't remember like being really like super pissed while I was there, but looking back on it, I see what happened. It was very, very poorly organized. There was what did they say on the documentary? They had subcontractors last minute have to come in and take care of all the trash and the porta potties, and there was a huge lack of staff. I do remember being like super annoyed that I couldn't get to a porta potty and without walking through piss and shit. But like I said earlier, if I went now, I would have been extremely pissed off. But at the time, I was just like, I do remember the last day after I had my face melted. At that point, I do remember, as much as, you know, we're all huge music nerds and we love live music and we love festivals. I do remember at one point, like in the afternoon, I was like, I want to go home. Like, because I can't, like, this isn't fun anymore because I can't, I feel like shit and I can't, you know, stay hydrated. It's hot. You know, I'm covered in dirt and my own sweat and like whatever, you know.
Well, and other people's all that stuff too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So could you, because in the documentary, the train wreck one, the one that's on Netflix, there's a clear, like, I feel like it was like late in day 2 or halfway through day 2, there's a clear like tide shift where the staff was like, I don't feel good about this. Like, could you feel that? Like, shit's gonna hit the fan. Like, people are pissed. Like,
they at one point kind of gave up. I think not all of them, but I think they realized that there's way more people than there are staff to control this, and they definitely realized that people were getting really messed up and you know, rebelling against it. And I think at a certain time they kind of realized, and they say this in the documentary, they're like, we're screwed. You know, it's just,
I mean, that's what most of the documentary is about, is that narrative, you know?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. In terms of like us, or for myself, getting that idea, I think I was pretty clueless, except for when the promoter or announcer was on the stage saying, hey, you guys got to back up, or hey, like, we're going to be a little bit delayed here for X, Y, and Z reason. So you could start to see like things like gradually unraveling in real time. Drink. Yeah, between the announcements from the promoter and the stage hands to, you know, slow things down, take a few steps back, just small little warning signs. And like you said, about halfway through Saturday, it was starting to become somewhat consistent, which is kind of now more than ever, right? It's just like, oh, okay, this is the beginning of the end.
Yeah. Well, watching the documentaries, you can definitely, I mean, there's a narrative that they're trying to put out there. They're trying to show that things start to deteriorate. Then they show things deteriorate, and you see all these, clips and videos. But like being there, there's no substitute for it being in the crowd and feeling people be angry. And I'm sure as the second day wore on and you got into that Limp Bizkit set, like people started to feel a little more angry and started to maybe not even angry, maybe more emboldened, because that's what happens with big crowds like that. I feel like, oh, everybody's just saying fuck it, let's just do our own thing. Maybe that's break shit. Maybe that's swim around in what we think is mud. Maybe that's who knows what, but it ended up being pretty sketchy, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, people like to blame, I think there was a lot of blame placed on Fred Durst in particular, but I agree with, I forget who said it during the documentary, is that, was there a combination of him feeding his ego? Absolutely. But was he also trying to put on the best show for 225,000 people? Absolutely. Were they dehydrated and pissed off because they couldn't go to the bathroom without crawling over feces? Yes, absolutely. So I think it all just kind of came to a head. And that was, Nate, would you agree? That was like probably in the evening of day 2 is when shit really started to getting like crazy.
Yeah.
And in the bands itself, no disrespect to the bands, but we're talking Rage, we're talking Metallica, we're talking Limp Bizkit, people are getting amped up.
It's a perfect storm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you've got this group of people that's already kind of getting towards this critical mass, and then you throw a fan on that flame. And that's exactly what that music can do. It's not necessarily the music that is making people do that. It's just the fire's already there. Like, this is just helping make it go.
Yep.
And then add the Woodstock banner as like a brand name, and everyone's like, oh, we got to live it up. This is a one-time deal. Like, let's make a show out of it. And there's cameras rolling. So I think everyone is just like,
one-time deal. This is the third one.
Well, yeah.
In the last one,
they knew it would be the last.
Yeah, right. Right, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, like, that was when my eyes opened. Like, pieces of like the infrastructure were being used to like surf the crowd, and like I didn't see any fires, but I was about 6 feet away from one of the towers that they were like rocking, and I was like, this is fucking sketchy.
Jesus.
Because that's real life. That's not like, oh, you're at a distance. Like, I was so really close to it, me, my brother, and our friend, and we ended up migrating. But at the time, I was like, is this fucking really happening right now? Like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing,
Right.
While watching these bands at the same time and kind of being blown away that I'm seeing, Metallica or Korn and Limp Bizkit, all these bands in their kind of heyday too. So, and I was, scrawny kid. So you gotta imagine I was feeling in danger, but kind of running on adrenaline and being in that innocent kid at the same, all kind of intertwined, which is bizarre.
Nate, I don't know how close you get, but another thing that I realized after the fact, when I had gotten home and watched all the MTV footage and whatnot, I didn't realize all the shit that was going on in the crowds, the groping, and how crazy things were. Because I'm, you have the screens and stuff, but I wasn't up in it, so I didn't realize how crazy it was until after I had gotten home.
Yep, I echo that 100%. When I got back, I was like, almost kind of like embarrassed. Like I was in that scene. I had no idea that shit was going on.
Right.
I don't think a lot of people knew. I think everyone saw the chaos and was kind of like watching the show, but I mean, I didn't know there was shit like that happening, which is really sad.
And I remember getting chills when you see the footage afterwards, and there's like Kurt Loder. I can almost quote him. He's like, "So we're packing up and we're leaving.
Yeah, we're getting out of here."
When when MTV leaves the biggest festival in the world early, that's not good.
Especially in that time frame. I mean, today they wouldn't even be there, but
good point.
Back then they were there. They were front and center, and
right.
It's in watching it, obviously in retrospect, 20 something years later, you see all that. You see the videos of the just the terrible way people acted Like, that goes back to my point of people just feeling emboldened. It's sick. It's just gross.
And you have assholes everywhere you go.
Totally.
Like, but there's a lot of there's 225,000 people, so there's way more assholes than there normally would be.
Right.
Combined with the heat and all of the problems that came along with it, lack of staff and water and all that stuff, people just got to their breaking point and they broke stuff. Nobody gave them something to break either. They just found their own things to break.
Well, it's funny. We're throwing out 250,000 people just like it's nothing. Like, next time you're at like the TD Garden, it's fucking 10 times that, 12 times that.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Like how I think, to your point, like, I can understand how you definitely, unless you happen to be very close to it, you wouldn't know what was going on in the crowd. You would have no idea. It's so big.
Right.
But how close did you even get to the stage? Because think of the Garden. Like, if you're in the nosebleeds, you're far away.
Dude, I was so close up during Jewel and Everlast. I was getting crazy.
I mean, yeah, you said 30 feet back. That's like on the stage.
It might have been more like 40 or 50, but even then it was during the day. It was the third day. I was not up in that Limp Bizkit, Rage, Korn crowd. I was not up in that. And I think I probably have a different, I don't even know if I'd be the same person I am today if I was up in that. I mean, watching the footage. Whew.
Nate, how close did you get?
So me, my brother, his friend, his father kind of held back. He mainly stayed for the most part at the camping site, ironically, but called down the fort. But I would, try my best to stay close to my brother and his friend. But you know how it is in a crowd, like, especially if you're packed in there like sardines, like we were, like, you get separated. And it happened multiple times. And I was always able to relocate my brother and kind of used him as like basically that's where my eyes were, as like a beacon of like, all right, I gotta, like, that's my one responsibility is not lose my brother.
The thing. You have to, if you want to stay with somebody, you have to, like, you can't lose them, because I lost my buddy so many times. Mm-hmm. And because the crowd is so huge, if you turn your head to see something, there's a swarm of people. They're gone.
Yeah. And I was, small little kid, so I wasn't really that tall either. So, but for whatever reason, I was able to cut, like, mainly because that was my focus. I was always like relatively close to them, and they were enjoying it. They were like moshing and doing the whole thing. I think there was a time, I can't remember what song. I want to say it was like Be It Now or something. But I was finally like, you know what? I want to have fun. I see my brother fucking like moshing in there. So I turned around and I said, hey, I want to go up. So they put up, their hands and they put me up to crowd surf, and they pushed me all the way. They pushed me all the way to the barricade, and it was insane. It was like the most insane thing I've
see you tomorrow
felt.
What band was that during?
That was during Rage.
Oh wow. Okay, so you got right up in that. Yeah,
I mean, I didn't mean to get up to the barricade, but they carried me all the way there, and I was just like pushed. And I think my brother said he saw me at one point and was super pissed because he thought I was gonna get just brutally injured, or he's like, dude, you could have died. And I'm like, fuck yeah, you're probably right. But I saw everyone having a blast, and I was like this nervous kid the whole time, and I was finally just like, I want to do it too. But yeah, that was the closest I got to the stage. This was the last time I got that close to the stage. And then I remember having a disposable camera and trying to get pictures while I was like on the crowd, and someone flicked it out of my hand, and I lost all those photos.
Oh man.
Duh.
Yeah. Disposable camera days. No, yeah, like you said, no camera phones, nothing.
Yeah,
wrist strap for that.
I wonder if somebody ended up taking that and like developing it, because I mean, I remember finding one at after prom at the party that we were at, and it wasn't mine, and I took a bunch of the rest of the pictures, and then I had it developed just to see what was on there. I bet if I had found that at Woodstock, like, you never know what you're gonna see on that shit. Like, you gotta pick it up and develop it, right?
I mean, you'd be able to smell those photos.
If somebody out there is listening to this and they were at Woodstock 99, and there are a couple of photos of us out there, and you recognize Nate in those photos, please send that to the Patio Slave podcast.
I would pay for that for sure. Yeah.
I could see Nate like walking around when, like, at the very end of Woodstock, like looking around for like concert ticket stubs and nerdery, and then he finds a disposable camera, and he like his eyes light right up, and he's like, "Oh, I can't wait to see what's on this. It's 30 feet from the stage."
Has to be mine. It has to be mine. It's one of like 70 that are on the ground.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that. When Nate stored his like Nate's Nerdery, which is basically a tub full of his old crap, concert crap, there was a small piece of plywood. It said Fred Durst's plywood. No.
Yeah, it did. Yep.
He took a piece home.
So, fun fact: we have to mention this because we mentioned it before we started the show. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the fourth wheel. I worked in radio for years. How I met all these guys. I worked for a station called WCYY in Portland, Maine, alternative rock station, and this is years after Woodstock, by the way. But I tried to get a special guest on tonight, but it didn't work out so well. And I thought he'd be the perfect guest too.
Oh, he would have been.
He would have been amazing. So I actually had him on my show. Nate will probably be able to help me out with the date here. Maybe you, Tony. Actually, Tony, you probably would because you're like the.
Tony would know.
Oh my God, with the dates with you.
Yeah.
Whenever Black Light Burns came and played at the station, I'm thinking maybe 2012.
10, 11, 12. Right on the chain,
like
into the second decade. Yep.
So I had Wes in on my show to the day of or whatever.
Wes Borland?
Wes Borland. And we had a great interview. And then towards the end, all of a sudden, he just casually drops an F-bomb. And and I'm like, and we're live. We had, by the way, we went on 5-second delay the day after this interview.
Oh, no shit.
Because of this or just
WCYY was on 5-second delay the day after this interview because of that. Yes.
That's amazing.
And there's me. I knew he did it. And of course, me, being in radio, what do? You ignore it.
Right.
And you pretend that it didn't happen. Well, Wes did not do that. He kept apologizing. And I'm looking at him across the way. I'm like, dude, I'm just like, just let it go. Just keep moving. And he's like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm like,
I'm sorry for saying fuck. I'm sorry for saying fuck.
Exactly.
Over and over again.
So afterwards, he randomly, he's like, dude, take my phone number. If anything happens from this, please give me a call if I can help you out or whatever. And I was like, all right, cool. And at the time, I'm like, holy shit, I have Wes Borland's phone number right now.
Right.
This is pretty cool. And I didn't use it until 2 days ago. And it didn't work out so well.
I know, yeah.
I tried to surprise you guys, and I was like, actually, I'm gonna read the message.
There's someone in the Zoom waiting room. Hang on, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah. I'm just kidding.
No, it's Wes from Puddle of Mud.
Shit, I texted the wrong Wes.
Everything was so blurry, you couldn't remember it.
Oh shit!
Speaking of mud.
All right, that's what you come here for, people.
Oh, shit. Well done, Twan. Well done. I just said, hey, Wes, it's Rob, formerly of WCYY in Portland, Maine. You said fuck on my show years ago when I had you on for a Black Light Burns interview. Introduction. And then I told him about the whole Woodstock 99. You were there. Love to have you on. Nothing back. And of course, me being the persistent person that I am here, I gave him another text today and still nothing back. But hey, we tried.
Yeah. So when
much appreciated
down the road, 3 weeks from now, when he texts you back and he's like, who the fuck is this?
Or no, he's going to be like, oh, dude, I'm so sorry. I meant to respond. Did you guys already record it?
We can add an addendum. We'll add an addendum in for you, Wes. Come on, come on the pod.
Right. Exactly.
So who was like, let's talk music a little bit. Like who had the best set? Do you remember?
I mean, so I left early. The people I went with, the father had to be at work at, obviously Monday morning. So we left, I think we dipped out on Sunday at like 4 p.m. or something. I remember we were watching Creed and it was like, hey, we got to go. I'm like, oh, fuck, because I really wanted to see the Chili Peppers that night. So I saw, part of Sunday, all of Saturday, and part of Friday because we arrived late. I remember Bush was really friggin' good. Like that set
was awesome. They were awesome.
Killer. In fact, that was like one of my favorite sets.
They covered REM's The One I Love, which was, They've ended up performing that many times in their concerts afterwards, but I'm a huge REM fan. So I was like, and I had just come out of my tent after
yeah, right.
3 days or 2 hours or whatever it was, Twan. But hearing them do that, I was like, holy crap, I'm back now. But Nate, so you didn't see the Chili Peppers.
Yeah, I missed that. I missed the Chili Peppers and I missed the Fires because of that. So we left I'd say probably an hour before the fire started, which is crazy.
So as far as the fires, I remember being, I was further up for the Chili Peppers than I was for any of the major night bands, I feel like. And I remember being with my buddy Keith, and we looked over and we started seeing there was just one fire at first. And I didn't think anything of it. I was like, oh, maybe this is like, there was so much shit going on there. Maybe there was like a little, something that was supposed to happen. And then we start seeing multiple fires showing up in the distance. I'm like, well, this isn't right. And
something's wrong.
Yeah, something's wrong here. And again, as frustrated as I was, I still didn't understand at the time that people were doing all this stuff because I think they were just so fed up and dehydrated and just like out of their minds. And I didn't get that at the time. But looking back on it, it all makes sense. And I had no idea that I was in such a, historic shitstorm at the time, if that makes any sense.
Oh, totally. Yep.
Yeah.
The turning point was Creed's With Arms Wide Open.
That's when people started really.
Twan,
that's when people started looting.
I thought you were gonna say it was when Flea just walked out and played his whole set fucking naked, butt ass naked.
No pick needed. He used something else.
He came out in Creed's set with a sock.
With arms wide open. That's great.
My name's Scott Stapp, and I got a fucked up jaw.
I think we've made that joke on this pod before.
We have.
Because Peanut gave it to him. Isn't that the rumor?
Yes, I think that's the rumor.
But it's funny. Obviously, I have huge respect for Michael Lang. Obviously, rest in peace. I mean, he got the whole thing going or whatever. But it was interesting looking back, watching the Netflix thing. Who's the other guy? I can't remember his name. The bald guy there.
Yeah, I can see
he was like
him.
the main promoter there, alongside
his name.
Essentially accepted no responsibility for what had happened. And that kind of pissed me off a little bit, because it's like, dude, you put on a huge, amazing, or potentially amazing festival, but you fucked up, and there was no, acceptance of that.
John Shear.
Yes, that's who it was.
So he's the Ja Rule of the Firefest fiasco. Walking scotch free. I don't know what you're talking about.
How was the food? Because like Firefest, they show those photos like the bologna sandwiches. Did you guys have any food there, or does it bring your own?
I don't remember.
Yeah. You ate something though, because you're alive.
Just water.
Right.
The food for us, we packed a cooler, and it was PB&Js all 3 days. Just PB&J, water, crackers.
Yeah, that's what happens when you go with your friend's parents or your friend's dad, because they actually think of this shit ahead of time.
Right.
Was it the combined jar of the jelly and the PP?
What is that called?
Swirl.
The swirl. PB
Was it
swirl.
Skippy or Jif?
Was it Uncrustables? No,
it
those
was
didn't
Peter
exist.
Pan.
Peter Pan.
Extra crunchy. Needs to be extra crunchy, or fucking get out of here.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, I wouldn't take anything back. I love the fact that I was there, and Nate, I'm pretty sure you feel the same way, that you can talk about it and say that you were at that. But again, I know I keep saying it, but I don't think either one of us knew at the time that we were at not only Woodstock 99, but what turned out to be Woodstock 99. We had no idea we were at this show that would turn out to be considered potentially the failure it was in so many ways.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I think, and interestingly enough, especially looking back on, we've gone to so many festivals since then that are like well-oiled machines, properly sponsored, security's intact. You know, obviously years later, so the like I said earlier, the model had been proven at that point, or not, right? But you get to see like what went wrong and how can we rectify, and how can we adjust to make sure that this shit never happens again. Because there was a big scare of the industry that music festivals weren't going to take place, and that's why Coachella skipped the year 2000 and then came back in 01, because it was just the aftermath was just so bad. I'm sure it was likely hard to get sponsorships to even put on a festival, let alone
around that time
get talent to commit to something that has just such a giant liability.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You said something that that piqued my interest, and it was a question that I kind of had for you guys. But watching the docs, they had that like kind of, as Rob mentioned, subcontractor group of people doing a bunch of different things, and part of that was security. And you got those T-shirts, right? And people were just selling them to concert goers. So
for $400.
Oh, really? Jesus.
So some dude said in an interview he gave a shirt away for $400, and I guess the shirt got you backstage.
Yeah, right.
I feel like this guy over here that was there. I feel like back in the day he would have dug.
That was my question.
He would have dug deep in that wallet to get that T-shirt for $400.
No, I think he has stolen it out of somebody's fucking tent. So that's my question, Nate. Did you end up with what is this the emergence of the Nate that we knew and loved from ages 19 to 30ish, where you would just find a way into everything?
I think I saw the ins and outs of what's possible for sure. Taking notes early.
We were at real quick, not to switch festivals here, but we were at Virgin Fest in Baltimore, and it was me and Nate with two of our other friends, and there was this free drinking lounge. I think it was a U.S. Cellular tent or like a Verizon tent or one of those phone tents or whatever.
Singular.
Yes, yeah, right, singular. And we couldn't get in, and Nate's like, "Hold on, I got this." And the kid literally like went down like on his stomach and rolled under this gate.
Sounds about right.
To get inside. And then I don't even remember, maybe you can fill us in, Nate. I don't even remember what you said. He went up to somebody, and keep in mind, he's already the person that's in there. So he's obviously in there for a reason. He's allowed to be in there, even though he snuck under the gate. He somehow got us all in. And now we're all drinking for free, and I think we hung out there for longer than we needed to because we were drinking for free. But yeah. Do you remember what you said to get us in?
So Woodstock 99, I remember vividly. Wish I had the camera, but I remember pretty much everything from Woodstock 99. Other festivals, not so much.
Fair enough.
I thought the punchline of this was like, Nate entered Virgin Fest as a virgin, but didn't come out one.
Now that happened to Petty.
Episode 144.
That happened to Petty.
Nate, we'll have to do a Lollapalooza episode sometime.
Oh fuck yeah, dude! We
that right there in itself. That's Nate at his finest.
I always loved like rolling to a show with Nate and not knowing, like, not having tickets, but just having him be like, I went to talk to this girl at a Weezer show at Hampton Beach in New Hampshire, and we didn't have tickets yet, sold out. Walk up to this girl who's ready to sell her tickets. I start talking with her, and Nate literally grabs my shoulder and goes, "No, dude, I got this. We'll give you $20." She just goes, "Okay." 2 tickets for $10 a piece, and we're into Weezer. It was probably $80 worth of tickets, but she just wanted to get rid of them. Man. I was ready to pay her face value because I'm a nice guy, and Nate's like, "We're not fucking paying face value. Nope. Get out of the way, bro."
Nope.
It's a scene out of a movie. He's like, he looks at you, "I've got this," and he directs you back, and he walks over like he's the promoter.
Exactly. I'm so good.
I'm the radio DJ, by the way, that was actually had a couple interviews lined up at Lollapalooza. Legit interviews. I had no credentials, though, once we were out. You'd think that I'd be the one to somehow get us back in.
Right.
No, it was the guy that was not the radio DJ that told me what to say to get us backstage.
Man. It's all, you guys getting a picture? You get a picture of what it's like being friends with Nate? It's fucking awesome.
It's pretty amazing. We hung out with CeeLo in the food tent. We met Perry Farrell. We met Jack White.
Guy from Wolf Mother. Can't remember his name.
Yep. Andrew from Wolf Mother. We got kicked out. And then as we were leaving, remember this? The lady that came over, and she goes, "I saw he just kicked you out." She goes, "I know you don't have credentials on." She goes, "I'm back in, but just don't let him see you."
You remember that was Nate greased that. Like that was possible because of Nate.
He'd been flirting with her for a half an hour.
Yeah. She was 70, but it didn't matter.
Didn't matter. Yeah.
If this goes south, let us back in.
These drunk boys seem really sweet. Let's let them back in here.
We were just hanging out, drinking vodka and vitamin water. Remember that?
Yep.
And eating catfish.
Oh yeah, the free buffet.
The free buffet. Yeah.
It was the catering for the artist, I think.
Exactly. Exactly. And we were the only ones back there with no credentials whatsoever.
They're like, Perry, this catfish is good, but you couldn't have got salmon, bro. Like, Jesus.
This wasn't on the rider. What?
Yeah, where are my green M&Ms?
We met Perry Farrell. Never forget it. Nate and I quote this all the time. What did he say to us?
What did he say? I can't remember. Something like, "Oh, are you enjoying the festival?
Are you enjoying yourselves at Lollapalooza?"
How do you even respond?
Right.
That's like the neighborhood dude from Family Guy, the old guy,
Herbert.
Oh yeah,
Herbert the pervert. Do you guys want to come back to my bus?
Oh God.
Oh shit.
Well, that was a tangent, and happy we got there. And yes, we will definitely have Rob back for a little Lollapalooza and get those stories in full.
Nate, we did that 3 times.
Yeah, 3 years.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that's a separate episode in its own for sure.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, going back to Woodstock, I mean, I think we pretty much nailed it. And if anybody listening right now wants to kind of get, a synopsis of the thing, definitely watch the Trainwreck Netflix 3-part series, because that pretty much captures it.
Nate, one last thing I'll say is, Nate, you remember that vividly, but can't remember anything else. Just kidding.
Hey, long-term memory and short-term memory are things.
They are definitely things.
It's true.
I can remember shows, dates, openers. I can't remember what I had for fucking lunch. So
it's so true. It's so true.
I remember everything, but that's just me.
Yeah,
you do. You are scary with that shit.
When
sometimes.
that goes away, I'm not going to know who I am anymore, boys. So
right.
I don't want to be around me at that point.
Who are you?
Shit.
Tone will bring up shit that I completely forgot about and bring it back into my subconscious, and I would never ever think of it again if it wasn't for him. Little minor details too.
I mean, it's not a bad thing, right?
No, it's amazing.
It's awesome.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a phone a friend on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Like,
yeah,
you're number one, dude.
Nerdery phone a friend.
Yeah. Tone just asked himself.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, hey, I'm gonna call myself. Hey, I just won $1 million.
I just called my answering machine.
So yeah, final thoughts from you guys. Nate, what are your final thoughts about Woodstock '99? Lay them on us.
For me, I mean, being so young, so I was a huge music fan. In fact, to answer your question, super long form, Twan, I mean, there was a lot of good sets, but Rage, for me, we were obsessed with Rage Against the Machine in 1999, right? So it was like seeing my favorite band at the time live, life-changing. Seeing that band is life-changing. Seeing this festival is life-changing. Being that age and seeing all this happen, for me, was like a coming-of-age type situation where I was like, wow, like, this is what the real world's like, chaos, uncontrolled chaos. But there's also a lot of beauty in that too, if you look past it. And obviously the music is art in its own right. But I think I walked away learning a lot about, humans, life, and how you get through it, because we got through it. We got out of there unscathed. Trust your instinct and never give up, but also be aware of your surroundings, because I would have never had thought that I'd be in such a dangerous environment going into it. And now looking back, that was a unique experience, and I would do it again. And I wish I had a journal, or I wish I had that disposable camera to relive some additional memories. But man, it was cool to be there, man. 100%.
Well, one thing I remember, because that was what time of year was it? The summer?
I think it was July. I think it was right after my 22nd birthday. I think it was like July 23rd.
So Nate came back just wearing a sock. he was so inspired by Flea.
Where was the sock?
On his ear.
On his
all right, gotcha.
Rode the whole way home. It was hot.
He lost all his clothes and the digital and the disposable camera.
Yeah. That dad was like, never again. All right, Rob, final thoughts, man.
So Nate kind of nailed it for me too, as far as it was a huge coming of age thing. I mean, granted, I was 5 years older than him, but I was still 22. I mean, like I'm still a kid essentially. My brain hasn't fully developed, and I was, it was a huge, amazing experience seeing all of these bands. And one thing that I feel like we didn't talk about, for me, one of the highlights, other than Bush was great too, and all these second stage bands too, like Collective Soul, that was super fun, and like the daytime bands, I had so much fun during the daytime bands too. But Metallica was super fun for me. That was such a great show, and I also wasn't super far up for that, but I had so much fun at that, watching Metallica. One and only time I've ever seen him, actually, sadly. Wow. But it was, like you said, Nate, it was a coming of age thing. I'm so thankful that I was able to be a part of that, and able to live through it and tell the stories. And I actually do have pictures, so I'll share them with you.
Oh, nice.
All right.
They're you can imagine how great quality they are, also from a disposable camera.
So my last question for the both of you is, Seven Dust was what, Saturday?
Seven Dust, I remember, played during the day.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
And we've had Lejean on this podcast back in the summer around the Tattoo the Earth stuff, but there's a clip of him yelling, "Look at the fucking rainbow, y'all!
Look at that fucking rainbow, y'all! Everyone look at the rainbow!"
Do you remember him doing that?
No recollection. Tony, are you expecting that I would remember that?
No, you're right. Good point, Rob. Good point.
Who's in the tent?
I saw the rainbow in the tent. I saw my own rainbow.
Yeah. A couple
Double
rainbows.
rainbow.
Whoa, double rainbow.
It was a double rainbow.
I don't recall him saying that, but I remember seeing their set, and I remember being stoked to see them in the fall in Maine at the State Theater. I think it was like November of the same year.
Wow, did you guys see that rainbow? Here's a song called Bitch.
It was like in the middle of a song. I'll send you guys the clip in the group text, but and I'll probably have played it in this episode, but go look at it online. It's it's an amazing clip.
I look forward to it.
All right, Rob, thank you for joining us once again to talk Woodstock 99 with us. And man, I'm excited. I always love having you on because we could do this. We would do this without the microphones, without recording. Like, this is just what we do when we hang out.
This is essentially what we do when we hang out. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. The nerds at the bar, right? So super stoked to have you back, and we will definitely do it again.
No, I appreciate it. Always appreciate you guys having me on, and thank you.
Yep, the Lollapalooza episode and the Virgin Fest episode and the fucking Nativa episode, and
oh my god, we have so many.
I was at the Nativa episode. I could talk to that one. That was a good time.
God. Most of those stories don't involve any of the bands.
Yeah, exactly.
True. The one story I remember the best about that, and we'll leave you with this, is me and Nick sitting on my car at, I don't know, 1 a.m. after the Flaming Lips, and people walking by, and it's July, and we're yelling, "Don't slip on the ice!" And people kept looking. They kept looking for the ice.
Every single one of them. Every single one of them. Yep.
Oh, shit. Thank you, Rob, for coming back, man.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you for listening to Patio Slave. We are at Patio Slave on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of the places that you can find us on social media. Facebook, Patio Slave Podcast. YouTube, Patio Slave Podcast there. Email us at patioslavepodcast@gmail.com. And hey, if you want to become a supporter, click on the link at the bottom of the episode and give us $1, give us $5. It keeps the lights on, keeps us going. We really appreciate that stuff. Thank you.
Did Tony tell you what I was?
No, I didn't. I saved it. That was for you, because that was your thing.
I'm still super bummed. I was watching the Woodstock Netflix thing, and I finished 2 out of the 3, and I just got this idea while I was watching it, and I was like, why don't I reach out to this person that I actually have their cell phone number? And hold on. I'm going to send it to you guys right now. I actually have their cell phone number because, and Nate, you might pick this right up. They said fuck live on my radio show during an interview back in 2012. And he felt so bad about it. And he gave me his phone number and he goes, if anything ever comes of this, please call me. I feel bad. And I've had his number this whole time. So I decided to reach out to him. but sadly, I never got a response. And I just sent it to you guys.
Nice.
We've talked about BLB on the podcast. I've brought them up.
Who's BLB?
Blacklight Burns.
Oh, Wes Borland.
Wes Borland, dude.
I tried to get Wes Borland on the show tonight.
Ah,
That would have been fucking
And
great.
I sent him a follow-up today too. I was like, dude, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be annoying, but 10 or 15 minutes.
Man, imagine that.